I didn't get class.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanajari Yamuna Tira Vanajari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Brajajanna Ranjana Jasura Nandana Brajajanna Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sisi Radha Madhava ki Sisi Radha Giridhari ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajaka Jaya Shodhara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajaka Jaya Shodhara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Shranta Saraswati Goswami Mahārāja Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Samveda Bhakti ki Jai Go Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories, C Guru, Sri Gauranga. Okay. So I hope you all enjoyed the time that I was gone, but I'm back. It says here, Dharmasetu terrorizes the temple. That's name of the chapter. So it's good to be back. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, chapter 4. Hiraṇyakaśipu terrorizes the universe. Maybe we have the door open just a little bit, Mayor. Thank you. This is text 42. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sa Uttama Shloka Padaravindayor Nishevaya Kinchana Sangha Labdhaya Tanvan Param Nirvritim Atmano Muhur Dushanga Dinasa Mana Shamam Vyadhat. Yeah. So Uttama Sloka Padaravindayor Nishevaya Kinchana Sangalabdhaya Tanvan Param Nivritam Mahur Dushanga Dinasya Manashamam Vyadat. Sutama Shloka Padaravindayor Nishevaya Kinchana Sangalabdhaya Tanvan Param Niritamatmano Mahur Dushanga Dinasya Manashamam Vyadat. Sautama Shloka Padaravindayor Nishevaya Kinchana Sangalabdhaya Tanvan Param Nivritam Mahur Dushanga Dinasya Manashamam Vyadat. You would like to chant? Sautama Shloka Padaravindayo Okay. word for word. Saha, he, Prahlāda Mahārāja, Uttama Shloka Pada Aravindayo, to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is worshipped by transcendental prayers. Shevaya, by constant service. Kinchana, of devotees who have nothing to do with the material world. Sangha, in the association. Labdhaya, obtained. Tanvan, expanding. Param, highest. Nirvritim, bliss. Atmanaha, of the spirit soul. Muhu, constantly. Dushanga dinasya, of a person poor in spiritual understanding due to bad association. Mana, the mind. Shaman, peaceful. Vyadat, made. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because of association with perfect unalloyed devotees who had nothing to do with anything material, Prahlāda Mahārāja constantly engaged in the service of the Lord's lotus feet. By seeing his bodily features when he was in perfect ecstasy, persons very poor in spiritual understanding became purified. In other words, Prahlāda Mahārāja bestowed upon them transcendental bliss. Purport. Apparently, Prahlāda Mahārāja was placed in circumstances in which he was always tortured by his father. In such material conditions, one cannot have an undisturbed mind. But since bhakti is unconditional, ahetukiya pratyata, Prahlāda Mahārāja was never disturbed by the chastisement of Hiraṇyakaśipu. On the contrary, the bodily symptoms of his ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead turned the minds of his friends, who had also been born in atheistic families. Instead of being disturbed by the torments of his father, Prahlāda influenced these friends and cleansed their minds. A devotee is never contaminated by material conditions, but persons subjected to material conditions can become spiritually advanced and blissful upon seeing the behavior of a pure devotee. Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshud Unminitam Nirataismai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivarinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchika Padarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevaja Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, by your good wishes and blessings, I'll try to say a few words. There's that one verse in the Bhagavatam where it says that just as certain birds, they can fly at different heights. So in the same way, we speak according to our realization. And I can guarantee you I am a low-flying bird, but I'll do my best. So there's a few verses here describing the character of Prahlāda Mahārāja. Narada Muni was explaining that Hiraṇyakaśipu had a few sons, but Prahlāda was the most special of them, and Yudhisthira Maharaj asked, can you tell us something about him? So there's an explanation here how he is a pure devotee on the most exalted platform of Krishna consciousness, and the last few verses ending with this one are a description of Prahlāda Mahārāja's pure devotional service and his level of being on Uttam Adhikari. So, now it says here, by his association with perfect unalloyed devotees who had nothing to do with anything material, Prahlāda Mahārāja was engaged in pure devotional service. So who's that? Where was his association? He's a 5-year-old boy. In fact, I guess it's the latter chapter when he's in the classroom on tiffin hour, right? When there's a lunch break, when the teachers leave to go have their, who knows what they have. He would preach to his classmates. And then he was preaching and preaching and preaching. At the end they go, Prahlāda, you go to school with us every day. You're only 5 years old. Where did you learn all of this? I mean, it's pretty amazing. Where did you learn all this, pure devotional service and so on? And Prahlāda Mahārāja is explaining he learned everything in the womb. When Indra, they attacked, when Hiraṇyakaśipu was gone, they attacked the palace of the demons and so on and created a big anyways, they captured his wife, Kayadu, and took her away. She was pregnant. And Indra told Narada Muni, stop them. He said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he said, well, we're taking her away, and because, Hiraṇyakaśipu is the biggest demon has ever been. And his son's probably just the same, like father, like son. So after that son is born, we are going to kill him. And Narada Muni said, that's a big mistake. And Indra said, why? He said, because actually, that child's a pure devotee of Krishna. And Indra, and actually all the demons, they all respect Narada Muni. What is that? Gentle and ruffians, verse of the 6 Goswamis. Dhira, dhira, janapriyo. Yeah, the pure devotees are dear to everyone. And we'll bring up a few of those pastimes here. But so even Hiraṇyakaśipu, he was actually respectful of Narada Muni, respectful. And so anyways, Indra and the demigods, understanding that Narada Muni was telling the truth, they circumambulated Kayadu, paid her respects and the child in the womb, and then they left. And Prahlāda Mahārāja went to the ashram of Narada Muni, Kayadu, excuse me. Prahlāda was with her, and stayed there for some time until Hiraṇyakaśipu came back from performing his austerities. But in the ashram, he was preaching to her. Like that. She was engaged in different services and so on, and he was preaching to her. And because of the anxiety in her mind and different things, she really couldn't retain that information. But Prahlāda in the womb actually retained it all. So that's where you heard all about the pure devotional service. So that's what's referred to here because of his association with Narada Muni. And there's another verse further on in this canto where he glorifies Narada Muni and saying that there's no way in the world he could ever give up the service of his spiritual master Narada Muni because he delivered him from this material existence, which is like a pit full of poisonous snakes. So because of that association, so right there is a key. How do we become pure devotees? Is by the association of other pure devotees. So, and he's always constantly engaged in the service of the Lord's lotus feet. And it says here, by seeing his bodily features when he was in perfect ecstasy, persons very poor in spiritual understanding became purified. This is the symptom of a great Uttamakari devotees of the Lord. Different levels of devotees have different effects on us, are able to influence our advancement in Krishna consciousness. And the topmost devotees, just by seeing them, one feels Krishna conscious. One feels Krishna conscious. That's a symptom of a great devotee. Just by seeing them. You don't even have to hear from them. And there's a story that Dinabandhu Prabhu tells. When Prabhupada was arriving in Los Angeles one time, all devotees were gathered there. And eventually, chanting, all the devotees packed in there, chanting. And then when Prabhupada came around, I guess a certain barrier or something came out, and all the devotees saw Prabhupada, everyone hit the ground. All the devotees hit the ground to pay their obeisances. And all of a sudden you heard this, he be shining. And what it was a worker there in the airport cleaning floors. He saw Prabhupada. And he go, he be shining. So never saw Prabhupada, but he saw Prabhupada, and just by seeing Prabhupada, he saw how effulgent Prabhupada was, and it moved his heart. He be shining, like that. So, but he just began his spiritual life just by seeing Prabhupada. He just was moved, and there's so many stories like that just by seeing. This is how powerful such devotees are, just by seeing them, just by being in their association. Now we know there's Vani and Vapu. Vapu being the personal association of the spiritual master. That is very, very powerful. And of course, Vani is also very, very powerful, and both have their effects upon the heart, and not both have to be there. Vani is more important in the sense that we don't always get the personal association of the spiritual master. In fact, in the 4th canto, it said that by following in the absence of your spiritual master, he's not the spiritual master is gone, but also could mean he's not physically present right now. By executing the orders of the spiritual master very, very perfectly, it's tantamount with seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. So it's not that without that physical association, all is lost. So in that absence of the physical association, we have the instructions of the spiritual master. But just seeing such devotees, it says here, even one has no qualification, because it says here, poor, this dusanga dinasya, of a person very poor in spiritual understanding, it moves the heart. And there's so many different stories devotees have, Sankirtan devotees and devotees all over the world, of people just seeing Prabhupada, or even just seeing his picture, and in so many different ways being moved like that and beginning their spiritual life, let alone those who have the constant association. So, and Prabhupada is referring to the point in here in the purport about, later on Prahlāda Mahārāja is being tortured. His father's ordered his death, his execution, because he was a devotee, and very, very difficult. In such material conditions, one cannot have an undisturbed mind. So in general, if you think about when we're suffering, it's very difficult to be peaceful, isn't it? It's very difficult to be peaceful. And has anyone here been tortured? Not recently, but it happened. Mentally. So, God, thank you, our minds. So, one can't imagine how difficult it is to control the mind. But it says here, because devotional service or bhakti is unconditional, Prahlāda Mahārāja was undisturbed by the chastisements of Hiraṇyakaśipu. And it wasn't that he was a contender in age or something like that. He was a 5-year-old, his son. Children usually have some respect for their parents, at least at that age, right? They kind of lose it around 15, then it comes back around 30. But right? Is that the famous quote by Mark Twain? Remember that quote? He said, when I was 18, I left home. And at that time, I thought my father was such an idiot. When I came home at 25, I'm surprised how much that man learned. So usually, but young children usually are very respectful of their parents, But in the conversation coming up very soon, he calls his father, he doesn't call him father. He didn't call his father father until after his father was killed. You know that? He always called him Suryavarya, the best of the demons. Call him a demon to his face. You're a demon. Like that. And you got to get it together. Right? Well, yes. Well, he was. He was. He was the best of the demons. And he was, my son understands who I am. Someone understands. Like that. Good boy, good boy. Yes, and he didn't out of fear not preach. I mean, even coming up in the classroom. If you're going to go to school, let's say you're going to school in Lanka, you don't start saying bad things about Ravana. Ravana's a, You don't start glorifying Ram, So he's risking. As a preacher, he's risking so much. And he got caught. His teachers came in. What's going on in this classroom? Krishna, 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 Krishna. What is going on here? And they were very sensitive. I mean, Hiraṇyakāśipu's arch enemy, if you want to call it that, was Vishnu. And here his son, of all people, not someone else, but his own son, was transforming the whole classroom into devotees. Big problem. Big problem. And they brought him to his father and said, we don't know what happened. You know? And at first, Hiraṇyakāśipu would chastise him. How'd you let this happen to my son? My dear son. And what's happened to him? This is horrible. This is horrible. He's become a devotee of Krishna. What could be worse for someone like me? He became a devotee. And anyways, we know the past. But anyways, and he chastised him. And Prahlāda, he just told him to his face. He just told him to his face, you're in Maya. You know, you're in Maya. And there's so many verses. Dravida can just rattle them off. So many verses. He just started, and he actually told him, you're in Maya. You're in a deep, dark hole, householder life, and you should give it all up. Go to Vrindavan, like that, give all this up. And, Krishna's our dearmost friend. And he really irritated his father a lot. His father said, okay, let's just take them back and one more time, and maybe you can convince them otherwise. And he brought him back to school, but it got worse. And then finally the whole pastime will unfold. But the point is, he was undisturbed, and that's not possible if someone's on the material platform. It's not possible to be completely undisturbed. And it's not just undisturbed, it's fully absorbed in Krishna. Because Prabhupada gives one example about Stalin. You know the example he gives about Stalin? Stalin was so fearful that someone would kill him if he had to have an operation. They had to cut him open. I don't know if it was appendicitis or something. And, in Russia, he's into cooking, he's cooking, he can tell us all kinds of stories. But, Russia, the history's always there. You never know who's going to get you. In fact, there was something, I saw a little blurb on the internet yesterday. It's very suspicious. A lot of people are disappearing in Russia right now. Just kind of like one guy just fell out of a third-story window of his house. He fell out of a window. Just happens. So Stalin was very fearful that if he, was on back then, chloroform or whatever they had, he was unconscious, anything could happen because you have so many political enemies. He was a very nasty person. And so he wouldn't take any type of anesthesia at all. He just was awake watching the doctor cut him open and do the whole operation. So there are examples of that where materially someone can be very, very tolerant of pain, right? But they weren't absorbed in devotional service. So it's not just a feat like that, like Prahlāda Mahārāja could tolerate all kinds of pain. He was completely on the transcendental platform, and a corollary of that was he was undisturbed by what was going on around him. See the difference? There's a big difference there. So such a level of Krishna consciousness is what we're interested in, not someone's ability to tolerate pain like that. What's that called? Stoicism? High pain threshold. Is that like a stoicism? Like a tree, like you just become... And you have yogis who try to attain that level. The examples given, bathing in the river in the cold winter up to their neck, it's freezing, or summer they build little fires around them, and they just try to become equiposed to the pain and pleasure of this material world, some kind of level of equilibrium. But we're not really interested in that at all. We're interested in pure devotional service. Sitting on a bed of nails. Okay. I can tell you a joke about bed of nails, but maybe I shouldn't. Like that. After class. It's a good one. It's about going to heaven. So it's got some religious undertones. Okay. So, if everyone starts to fall asleep, maybe I'll tell it, but everyone's wide awake. We only have a few minutes here. It reminds us all the story of Haridas Thakur in a similar situation. And I was just thinking, Christmas just passed by too. Well, of course that would be Easter, but Jesus Christ, preacher, you're pulled into the court. You got the local magistrates and this and that, and their word is life or death. life or death. And of course at that time, the Romans weren't that happy with the Jews and people like that. They were all, seeing things, but at any moment something can go wrong and you're out just because of your religious denomination. And Haridas Thakur, the Muslims weren't exact chummy with the Hindus at all. And there's so many stories of so many atrocities that are in the DNA of Hindus today because of that. And that's hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So Haridas Thakur is pulled in, and what was really sensitive about that was he was born in a Muslim family, and he became a Hindu. And that was just too much. And they asked him, can you just not be a Hindu anymore? Started like good cop, bad cop, Just don't be a Hindu anymore. Just come back, be sensible. If you just become a Muslim again, we'll just drop all the charges and everything. Everyone will go home happy. And he said, no, I'm going to keep chanting Hare Krishna. He said, was that even you cut my body into little pieces? I'm just going to keep chanting Hare Krishna. He was undisturbed by the whole thing. And it's not that he was like, I'm in your face, like a tough guy Hindu or something like that, or anything like that. He was just completely Krishna conscious. How could he do anything else? He was completely Krishna conscious, and he was just, there's no way of being anything else. And therefore he made the mandate to take him and beat him in 22?
No, the mandate was beat him to death. But they couldn't. He went 22 marketplaces.
That was at 22 marketplaces. And the point is, the guards that were beating him, they started to feel, they were in a lot of anxiety because if they didn't kill him, they would be killed. But also just seeing that he was completely transcendental and happy and Krishna conscious, like that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completely protected him. And finally, he seeing their anxiety, he feigned death. And they threw him in the Ganga, and he washed down the shore, and he got out and walked away. So, and he just got up. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu protected him, but he was completely unaffected. And those guards hearts were turned. They just didn't know what to do, and they're scared, and please, die. He said, okay, let me die, I'll die. And just like that. So this level of Krishna consciousness is yes. Sometimes you wonder if you can even aspire for it, but we can worship it. We definitely worship it. And just hearing of these things gives us a little opportunity to understand what it means to be fully Krishna conscious. So, because we're all struggling with this material energy, spiritual energy, back and forth. Well, here are examples of devotees who are completely beyond that struggle. They're completely Krishna conscious. And the material energy was no impediment. Because it says right here in the beginning, unalloyed devotees who had nothing to do with anything material. Okay? Because the material nature is, it's called switch and bait. Is that what it's called? Or bait and switch? You can tell I don't do much fishing. Okay, but what it is, you come into the material nature and she says, let's have a good time. And then she slaps you. Right? So anything material, as soon as the material energy, it calls, yes, fun, enjoy, and then pain. Like that. So unalloyed devotees have nothing to do with the material world because they know about this. They just don't, they know about it. And they also know how sweet Krishna's lotus feet are. So they're always absorbed in serving the Lord's lotus feet. And that's described here. Pada Aravindayo, Krishna's lotus feet. That's their object. And there's no bait and switch there at all. It just gets better and better and better. So we can appreciate Prahlāda Mahārāja's exalted platform of Krishna consciousness, and it will come out as the verses go on and the chapters go on. So it's 8:26. We can end here. If there are any questions or comments or further glorification of Prahlāda Mahārāja. It's really quiet in here. Hare Krishna. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, this is from Mahārāja, my source of jokes. Okay, you might have heard this before. Someone goes to heaven, arrives in heaven. Peter's there. And Peter says, I'm glad you made it. And, you know, nowadays we give you a choice of where in heaven you're going to spend eternity. I'm sorry, I got it backwards. He goes to hell. He goes to hell. And the devil says, we've upgraded. You get to choose now where you're going to spend eternity. Okay? So he says, come on in. And there's a hallway. And, you know, there's different doors, different kinds of hell. So the first one they come to, it's America. And they look inside the door. And inside the door, they put the person in an electric chair. They pull the thing, gets electrocuted. They pull him out, right? And then they beat him, right? And then they throw him on a bed of nails. Okay? He said, whoa, I don't want to go there. So they go out on the hallway, Germany, it's the same thing. And then he looks down the hall and goes, wait a second. There's this long, long line of people trying to get into that door. Let's go check it out. So they open it. It's India. India, right? So he looks inside there, and he says, why is it so popular? He looks in there, and of course, they throw the guy in an electric chair, and the electricity doesn't work most of the time. Like that. And then they pull him out of the electric chair, and the guy who's supposed to beat him is eating somewhere, you know, having some puri. And then he says, where's that bed of nails? And someone's stolen most of the nails. They're all gone. So he said, oh, that's why. I'll take this one. Like that. India. So that's the joke about the bed of nails. Okay, so we can end here. All glories. Yep.
Hare Krishna.
Whoops, I got caught. Questions or
I
comments?
have a question.
Vijay.
May I?
Just 1 second, okay? There's plenty of time. It's not even 8:30 yet. Just be patient.
Yes, I can wait. No problem.
Okay. So one would wonder, you know, there's Prahlāda Mahārāja who's so spiritually advanced. He can just, with great calm, face down his father. He can tolerate the Haridas Thakur, but he tolerated his father's torment, thrown into the vat of oil and everything, you know, and completely equipoised. So what does someone like that have to pray for? So I'd like to just share one prayer, not from his prayers to Sringadeva, but, well, not from his prayers in the 9th chapter, but in the 5th canto, which we read already. We won't get around to another 25 years. So this one is one of my favorites. I worked on this book, and I remember reading it. And at the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, anyone who wants to be free, any devotee who wants to be free of material desires should pray to Nrsimhadev as Prahlāda prayed in his prayer. So I memorized it. It's not exactly a verse, but it's pretty far out. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Tejase Avadavi Bhavavadnakavadvedangshtikarma Shayan Randayatamo Grasa Om Svaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuishta Om Shraum. Shraum is Nrsimhadev's seed mantra. What do you call it? Like the clean, you know. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsimhadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possess nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Yeah. Powerful prayer.
That's it, prayer.
Showing us how to pray.
Vijay, you had
Yes, Dharmasetu Prabhu, thank you very much. You're most kind. Dandavat pranams. Prabhu, do you mind reciting again the last sentence of the purport?
The last sentence of the purport is, a devotee is never contaminated by material conditions, but persons subjected to material conditions can become spiritually advanced and blissful upon seeing the behavior of a pure devotee.
Yes, thank you very much. You're most kind. That is the quote. So based on this quote, my question is, how do you explain the concept of nityabad, eternally conditioned?
Well,
because if I am eternally conditioned, how it will happen for me to change the situation? Because eternally means eternally.
Nityabhata means we've been in this material world so long, it seems like eternity. That doesn't mean we've been here forever. We came from the spiritual world. But Nityabhata means it's been so long, it seems like eternity. Like that expression. I'm down so low, it looks like up to me. Everything looks like up to me. So we've been here so long. The conditioned soul's been here so long. Millions and millions of births. I was listening to a tape the other day, Prabhupada made that point. He said, you have to understand, when we fall, we can fall from the human form of life, and it can take a few million lifetimes before we get another one. Now that's a long time. He's just encouraging the devotees in class to be more serious about Krishna consciousness, because he says, if you lose this opportunity, if you fall down, it can take millions of lifetimes before you get another one. It's what is that? Adulabam? Adulabam. No, what is it? Prahlāda Mahārāja says. Manusham. It's very rarely achieved. It doesn't come easy. Yeah. So, I hope that answers your question, but that's what Nityabhata means. It's just been so long, it seems like eternity.
Yes, it answered my question, and I liked it when you mentioned that the human form of life is very rarely achieved.
Yes.
Right out of the Shastra.
There's also in the verse, Manasade, no, what is that verse, that song?
Manushyans.
Yeah, like that. So, very rarely get it. But by the association of saintly persons, tarubhavaye, we cross over the ocean of material existence. Any other questions or comments? So we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.